Hey guys, Kimby, you're early. Paul, good day, you're early too. Frank Ward looks like he's early. Johnny Randy's early. Stuart Hingston's early. Must have made it home. Mark Osborne was early too. I think I'm still 2 minutes early. Even I'm early today. That's not a bad effort. Kevin, g'day. What's happening in the big wide world out there? Stuart's been going and looking at rollers today. That's really a bad sign. Don't look at rollers. You'll find it's something that'll overtake you. Hey, Bill. I've been at work. I don't know if it's really doing anything for me as far as a state of being, or even as a theoretical sort of even on a theoretical level, I don't think work does anything for me. But anyway, I made it through it. Home, polished the balancing arbor for the grinder for half hour or something after I got home. I just finished messing with that. Joe's out on the kitchen table trying to balance the grinding wheel. That way lies madness, so I leave him to it. That's what I believe anyway. Brendan, g'day. Bill's drunk. Well, Bill's had some whiskey. I don't know if he's drunk. I don't know if he gets drunk. I've never seen him drunk. So, had a bit of a weekend, I guess. I don't know if it was a good weekend or a bad weekend or a productive weekend or a non-productive weekend or any other sort of weekend, but we had a weekend. What have we done? This engine, we've actually swapped out the main bearings again because they developed issues. Not sure why that was. Something wasn't sitting in properly or something, and I took a fraction too much out of them, and then all of a sudden they were very loose. So this feels pretty good here. Pretty happy with that, actually. Really feels good, and they're reasonably free. There's no play in there. Made this little pin here last week. What day was that? Probably saw that, did we? Did we see that last time? Yeah, we did. Made this little pin with the clevis on it. This has just got a rough bush in this gear. It's not by any means or otherwise. It's pretty loose actually. It's not real good. So this needs a pressed in bush to fit on this pin at some point. I also fixed this gear, which it's got an outside piece on the gear that's silver soldered on, and then threw 2 screws in it. So we've done that 120 degrees apart. Got that done. I think also tap this set screw to hold this pin in place. It's something else I did yesterday. I think I did that. So that's where we're going with that. I've actually bored the crankshaft out. I've bored the flywheels out. This one has had a new reasonable fit bush Loctited in properly, so that's not coming out, I don't think. And we can set that up and bore it and get it nice and fitted to the actual on here. The other one hasn't got that fitted yet, but I've only got a bit of rough old cast iron flat, or some offcuts that look honestly something like this, which I cut a bit out of and machined up. Hey David, travelling through Croatia. Keep safe over there. Don't get mixed up in any minor wars or anything. So this one's ready to set up properly and bore out. I'll probably face it first. It's very easy to face it square and flat. And then we'll set it up accurately and bore them to fit here. Got a brooch to put keyways in them. And then I was at my mate John's. Oh gosh, I don't know where that went. Oh, it's over here. Here we go. It's at my mate John's on the weekend too, and he loaned me a 332 end mill, which isn't very big, to put keyways in here. So that'll be a fun job. I can't wait to do. So this is looking all right. Get some flywheels on so it's balanced. It should run pretty reasonable, I think. So that's still a work in progress, of course, but we're making a little bit of inroad, I think. Here we go. The cam's a bit of an interesting thing. I might go over here to the drawing, if we can actually get to the drawing. Put this drawing away last night. This is the cam, right? And this is how it's laid out in 15-degree increments. Around the circumference is 4 times or something. I think it must be about 4 times the size. 4 to 1, because I actually 3D printed it and it fits the drawing, sort of. Almost. Yeah, sort of fits the drawing. Hey Paul. So if I was going to do it manually, it's a very difficult thing, because not only is it laid out with a diameter at each increment, so at 195 degrees it's 308 thou diameter radius, and at 150 it's 412 thou radius, etc, 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 if that makes any sense. You can't just set it and machine it at that and go around it and keep doing that. It's because what happens if where's a bit of material that we could use? Say this is the end of the cutter. If it's at 90 degrees to the centre, what you find is that it's going to cut into the side of the cam there like that. So it's not going to actually be anything like what it's supposed to look like. If you just cut it on centre, that works too, but there's quite a bit to actually take off. Like there's quite a bit to file off if you do it that way. If you can imagine what's left. It only works to there because when you get round to here, it does exactly the same thing again, and you've got to do it from the other side and come round from the starting position. So Paul says it sounds like a shaper job. Yes, it does sound like a shaper job. And that's a very, very astute thought process. To me, it sounds like a CNC machine job, but anyway, we'll see how that goes. Anyway, there's no real easy way to do this, and the way that I've set this out is just with square. Like, see that? Find something with a bit of contrast so you can see it. Just square corners, or the lines between the two angle points. You have a line between that point and that point, and a line between that point there, and a line and that point there. So the smart way to do it, of course, is to draw it out and put a spline around it so that it's all curved, and then just run around it with an end mill. So, hi Rustinox. There we go. Don't know anyone with a CNC grinder, that's the problem. If there's even such a thing. But it'd be very nice to have a, even, honestly, a follower. Boring bar in the mill with an offset. So you machine this around here. And offset it. You had a boring bar that was big enough to cover the whole lot, and then offset it to fit around here. Very interesting. Thanks, Kevin. Okay, very interesting. Anyway, we're just going to mill it on a bit of bar. Probably out of something that can be case hardened, and then case harden it and solder it on the cam. So it actually fits on the cam gear, which is here. Fits over the top there, in between the gear and the body. Hey Raymond. So anyway, sorry, this place is a bit rigged in with one hand. We'll fold that up again. Anyway, that's a work in progress. That's sort of the next thing to go on it, I guess. I'd like to get the flywheels on and that on, and then we can start thinking about governors and stuff, and probably putting the cylinder on will be next as well. We can get that lined up somewhere. But anyway, yes, I see what you mean, Kevin. That's smart. Interesting. It's also probably quite doable. Don't know. Don't have to think about that. Anyway, Joe's volunteered to maybe CNC it, so we might do that and see how it turns out. I'll have to look at Andrew Wales. So I've looked through most of his videos. I didn't see that one. This one becomes interesting because it's got sort of some odd shapes on it. because the ignition timing's on this cam as well. Anyway, we'll see how that goes. This place feels a bit lived in tonight because I've had a big weekend in here. In other work, these are all I managed to make, but these are 1/2 inch Whitworth BS 190, British Standard 190 1/2 inch Whitworth full nuts. And half nuts for lock nuts. So these are 4 nuts that we need for the roller as of ASAP, so these are going on next weekend. But fits the spanner, which there's no point actually doing them if they don't fit the spanner. This is a 5/8 Whitworth, or 1/2 inch Whitworth spanner. Yeah, 1/2 inch Whitworth. And if you look at it, the spanners, actually the ring spanners, the correct height for the nut. So uses all the nut. And the open-ended spanner is the correct nut for the correct width for the lock nut or the half nut. So obviously someone's thought about that at some point. Bit exciting, interesting, I guess. These are a bit of a pain because they're 915 to 915, 920, I think is the tolerance on these. Thousandths of an inch across the flats. There must be another one there, it's on the bolt. So 2 of those and 2 lock nuts. There's also 2 brass ones I made for another job, but they're probably been dropped down the back of the table. I'm going to have to find them tonight before I forget. So the thing is that across the points these are 1 inch and 60 thou. So you've got to really cut. I mean, what's the next biggest size? If you can get some 26mm bar, something like that, 28mm bar, you probably make them out of 28mm bar, but otherwise it's 30mm. A fair bit of material to remove to get them down to size. And if we're going to make them or fit them, we might as well do them properly, I think. There's no point messing around with half size, undersize fasteners on a vintage machine. If you're going to replace them, you might as well replace them properly. These ones here, these are 7/16 Whitworth. They're the right size too for 7/16. Have a look. See, fit the spanner beautifully. Same deal. And there's assortment of them because I took, instead of taking half the distance down on the final cut on the hexagon, I took twice the distance and they were a bit smaller. So we had to make these smaller again and turn them into 7/16. So we've got them in stock for next time. But there's about 200 nuts really that need replacing without the rest of the fasteners. If anyone wants a job, I haven't counted them, but there's a lot of them. And the smallest ones, I guess, are 1/2 inch. A lot of them are 3/4 and 5/8. Some of them are 7/8 inch. So you just got to get in and get in and make them. And it's not really the end of the world, but there's some probably will, but they're not available. What happened was that just before the Second World War, inadvertently people refer to this system here, this British standard, as being pre-war. It sort of works, but it's not really. I believe the standard was changed in the... It was changed at the beginning of the war anyway. To save material, and all of a sudden a 1/2 inch nut was the same size as a 7/16 inch nut, which is today's standard. You see, this is the same size as a modern 1/2 inch bolt. So Whitworth's become one size smaller, and the big size is no longer available anywhere, like impossible to find. So you've got to make them. I'll get someone to make them. Probably do them myself. I don't think they have to be anything particular as far as material. At a pinch, I think 12-14 would probably do. Everyone's saying sacrilege, don't make nuts out of that rubbish. And that's a valid point. But I don't think they have to be much better than that. I mean, they're all Whitworth, so they're big and coarse. You're going to struggle to strip them. And most of them don't really do anything that requires a lot of torque. And absolutely it's a pro argument for metric, and if you're making new machines, make them in metric. But if you've got a 1926 steamroller, it should have Whitworth bolts, and they look good with big bolts, so you've just got to go through the lot of them as you go, as you replace them, or as you go through it and pull stuff off and put stuff back on and get them right. And if you can do them in batches of 20 or 30, I just use a short length of bar and machined hex on both ends, chopped them up with a bandsaw and faced them old length, drilled them, tapped them. Not a big job. Hey Mats. And realistically, once the hexagon's made, these only took probably, well, they still took an hour. It's very difficult to make money on making those. But yeah, the 20s aren't for everyone. And as an added bonus, you can go and get the right spanner and actually undo these. And messing around trying to find an adjustable spanner and find one that's right and one that's just small enough to fit in the gap so that it still can get some turn without touching the jaws on your paint and all that sort of stuff. And there we go. So that's kind of an interesting way to fill in your day. So that's how it is. Of course we need a great stack of these because all these odd little studs which you've also got to replace, and that thread. I hope they're that thread. Am might need a... Yeah, they are that thread because this bolt screws in. And when this engine was made, Mr. Joseph Whitworth himself was still around. So that's where we're at with that. That's what this week has been. He's actually getting some sort of a production stream worked out to make these, as many as we need. These we need a lot of because there's probably 30 of them on that little Bayer Peacock engine, and there's probably another 30 of them on the roller in various places, probably more. The 7/16 ones we might need somewhere, I don't know where. 5/8 ones we need a lot of. So there we go. If we have a look over here, I'm just going to clear some space off this bench because I've got tools here everywhere. A set of gauge pins, which are a very useful thing if you're drilling, if you're making small bores. I think if you're boring small bores, that these are about the most useful thing you could possibly own. Much better than any internal micrometer of any sort. Get a set of these up to 12mm or 1/2 inch or whatever, and then you can be pretty jolly accurate with your bore and tell exactly what size it is and how much bigger you need to go. So there's my tip for tonight. I've got some number 3 hand reamer and a triangle scraper and a set of Starrett centre punches and a ruler. Some more drawings, cylinder head and crankcase, etc. We're up to here. What was I going to show you? Yeah, I know what I was going to show you. There we go. Machinery's Handbook, because everyone needs a copy of this. This is the 11th edition. Don't know what year it is. 1943. A reference book. Machine design and shop practice for the mechanical engineer, draftsman, toolmaker and machinist by Jones and Oberg. Anyway, this is courtesy Keith Fenner, and I really appreciate this because the occasional use it gets sort of makes it worth its weight in gold. But let's look here. The chart on page 1213. Nuts and bolts and machine details. And it's got British Standard Whitworth, BSW hex, bolts, set screws, nuts and washers. And it's got all the diameters for the washers and bolts and nuts and everything else. Then it's got American Standard stuff. And it's got stuff like castellated nuts and square nuts and bolt heads and square bolts and all that stuff that you could not possibly do without, really. Spacing of bolts for wrench clearance, which if anyone's ever done anything with English cars, they know that that was not actually something that anyone ever looked at or pretended there was actually a thing. It's completely and utter fiction. But spacing for nuts on machines. Cascade nut, dome nuts, machine screws, cap screws, set screws, hand wheels and stuff going on from there, flywheels and nails and spikes and so forth. But that's all the information. So, very useful. That's the chart. If all else fails, you don't know where anything is, have a look in Machinery's Handbook, because it's probably there. You just got to find it. So this still is pretty standard Whitworth chart. It's still the old BS 190, not the new standard, the post-war standard, so it's fairly useful. It's got a note down the bottom that says the British Standards Institution recommends that sizes marked asterisks be dispensed with for general use. So inch and 3/8, inch and 5/8, and 11/16 Whitworth, the sizes that you probably don't see very often because it says in the book. But yeah, crop circles in the Machinery's Handbook, and they ignored most of that probably. So there we go. It's a treat from Machinery's Handbook, 1940 something. 1943. It's pre-wartime, is it? 1943. Wartime. Anyway, so that was done. The lathe was sort of clean for a minute last night after I sort of finished those nuts and before I started the flywheels, but that didn't last particularly long. This place feels a bit dark in here and I apologise for that. What's everyone else up to? What other exciting things? There's a new video from Bill, saw that. There's a new one from Rustnox, which is on my list of things to see, and I meant to watch it before tonight, but I got busy when I came home with other things. Apologies. Don't know what else I saw. I don't know if I've got much else to really add. There's what I'm going to call a maintenance day, but it's really just a messing around on the roller day on Saturday and Sunday this weekend. I've got the weekend off and I'm going down to spend some time fitting some bits like this and changing them over. Probably pulling the simpling valve off the compound cylinder and bring that up to rebuild it because it's a bit of a mess. That's the next fitting that really needs doing. Pulling some of the plugs out of the boiler and pulling the foot plate up and giving everything a good steam clean and seeing if we can find some paint underneath all the grease and dirt and stuff. And probably having a good bit of a look in there and seeing where the crown sheet actually is in relation to the water gauge, because it might be useful to know that. Probably welding up the tender that's got a hole in it that leaks. There's a lot of jobs that might even get some sign writing done. So, and Trainman 4602 passed. Kevin posted in Discord and appreciate that. Followed a couple of his video series on building steam locomotives. So I don't know if it was sudden or what, but there you go. And I guess we'll all go that way. When I do, you can all come and do live streaming where you clean out my junk. Good luck with that. Hopefully I've got a few more years. We'll see. Bill's getting to the philosophical stage of the evening. It's either have another whiskey or cut back for a little while. Short illness and was age 75. It's not all that old, to be honest. 75 doesn't feel old. If I get to 75, I've got another 25, 28 years, 27 years or something. Yeah. Try not to think about that. I was going to have the studs out of that cylinder and take it down to Dan's on the weekend and probably have a go at freeing up the rod. But it hasn't happened. Can't see it happening tomorrow night, and I can't see it happening tonight. And Friday night I'm on the road, so can't see that happening. It might have to be next time. But there's a whole list of things that are going to have to be next time, because there's just not enough. And not enough hours in the week to get things that were supposed to be done this time done on time. That's where we're at. If I did get these nuts made, and it's sort of a drop in the ocean. I got a little bit done on the engine too. I got the flywheels plugged up and I got the timing gears on. Got another couple of sets of bearings made to somewhere where I'm sort of happy with them. And maybe it'll work. Maybe it won't. Who knows? Maybe it's Maybelline. Anyway, that's about it for me. I don't know if there's much else really to share. I've got so many jobs here that need doing, and sitting here talking about them doesn't get them done, unfortunately. Could use a leap week. That's exactly what I need. Even a leap week's not going to make a lot of difference. What I need is to get everything out. What I think I'm going to do is get a length of a rod and a couple of lengths of bar or some bits of bar and chop them up into short bits, so I don't have to mess about, reposition them in the middle on the lathe and stuff. Put a hex on each end for about 4 inches, 5 inches, something like that. And then stick them in the lathe, light them off and make some nuts. It's one of the jobs that need to be done. And I quite enjoyed this once I got into it, but to be honest, I procrastinated it quite a lot. These go on the gibs and tapered gibs that hold the little ends on the piston rods. So that's where they go. $1 million in a year. I don't know if I reckon I could get through a year on $1 million. I don't know. I might be back at work early. I probably could get through a year and $1 million easy enough, I think, if I stretched it. But I really enjoyed doing these once I got into them. But should have got into them a bit earlier. That's all. Got to make a little oiler for this. This is the cylinder off the engine. So oiler goes in here. Drip oiler. I haven't got any idea at all how to attack that. Not even a little bit. So it hasn't been done. By the sound of all that, I don't think I'd have any problems at all figuring out, without even taking any new projects on. I think I could very, very, very easily put it to use. I reckon I could spend $250,000 on the roller without any problems at all. Probably a bit more. In about 2 months. It's unlikely to ever happen, but anyway, that's the reality of that one. So, a lot else to report, guys. Haven't watched a lot of YouTube. I've sort of spent a little bit of time on Discord, not enough. I haven't spent much time on social media at all. I could think of some worthy recipients for quite a lot of it, Bill. Not a selfish person, but yeah, got to have it to even think about that. Anyway, I might call it, because I don't know if there's going to be any real actual conversation of any weight or merit to impart to anyone. In fact, it's a fairly valid point that I probably don't. So we're a bit short, but there's no great set time limit on this, I don't think. I'm going down to the roller on Friday night, Saturday, Sunday, probably Monday. I might set up a camera if I remember to take one and get it all sorted, and see if we can actually get some footage over the weekend. It might turn into a video. Not a lot of machine work footage. I'd like to get one on making some nuts when we get geared up properly to make them, because I think there's a lot of interest in these and a lot of people who are looking for them. What about the Jones and Shipman 540? Good question. What's he been doing to it? Pulled the table off this week, cleaned under it and put it back on. I think it's a ground table. It's probably a hardened ground bed, I think. I'm not sure about that, but it could be. It's a ball bearing. It's a plain bearing spindle one, which to my mind is probably a good thing rather than a bad thing. Still some fine tuning to do. He's made a KLM style wheel balancer this week, and got some arbors for wheels from the UK, which are probably, to be honest, Asian, but don't know where you get them elsewhere. And I think he's slowly getting it to the point that it's actually growing in flat and fairly reasonable finish, but there's a bit in it. How's yours, Kevin? Have you got it running yet? And we still haven't got any coolant either. There's got to be a new tank made for that, I believe. He's out there sitting in the corner of the workshop with all the other machines, and it's nice and clean, but it's looking a bit dejected. So he's out there trying to balance a wheel. I don't know if he's actually making any progress, but that was tonight's job. Interesting thing about grinders is they tend to wear on the outside of the table rather than the inside of the table like a milling machine, because of the ingress of dirt under the corners that are on through the outside. But at this point, it looks like it's going to be a half reasonable machine. Just got to spend enough time and energy on actually getting it right. And I think it's a trade on its own, so there's a lot to learn as you go. Excellent. Kevin, you're doing good. I just been in here, sort of mind my own business and getting some projects done while he's out there messing around with that. That's how it is. Anyway, that's probably me for tonight. Thanks everyone for joining in, and really appreciate you coming past to chat for a bit. It's my Wednesday. I was back at work today. It's a bit quiet at work, which is something that I haven't said for a long time, but it is a bit quiet at the moment. I think everyone's got rates notices and bills and things. There's so things are a bit quiet, and I've got work tomorrow, and I've got work Friday, and I've got Saturday off, which is a bit of a godsend, and I'm going to go and do some putting things together and pulling things apart on the roller. Anyway, take care, people. I'm out, and be kind to each other. Have another drink, Bill, and I might be in Discord in a bit and have a chat for a bit. See what happens. We'll catch ya. See ya.